Keine Sorge sind.
And every story we have been entrusted to tell, that the Nakba must end, the refugees must return, and Palestine must be free. And we make a pledge, here, today, on this street, in this city, to Halima and to the millions of Palestinians still waiting, that we will not rest. We will march, we will organize, we will campaign, we will lobby, we will demand, fight by every lawful means available to us until the right of return is not a resolution gathering dust, but a reality lived. We shall not be moved and we shall not be silent until the Nakba stops and Palestine is free. Continue, my friends, for the efforts. Free, 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 free.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Solidarity with the people of Lebanon. Solidarity with our political prisoners. Solidarity with everyone that sacrificed struggling against the Zionist cancer. 78 years ago, my grandmother, along with 800,000 other Palestinians, were forced from their homes by Zionist militias. Not in their wildest dreams would they have imagined that here, in the capital of the country that planted the Zionist cancer, hundreds of thousands would march in solidarity with them. Never would they have imagined that people from all corners of the globe, in their hundreds of thousands, no, in their millions, would march in solidarity with them. From every corner, people of all walks of life, of all religions and none, opened their eyes to the evils of Zionism and decided to take a stand. And for that, the Palestinian people thank you. And despite the constant threats, despite the blackmail, despite the arrests, today our movement is larger than ever before. For decades, the Palestinians have been denied their basic human rights. Today, we say no more. Despite their attempts to make us stop marching, despite their attempts to make us stop caring, today we declare, in our thousands, in our millions, in our millions, in our billions. And that's not an empty slogan, because the Palestinian struggle is a universal one, because we know that no one is free until everyone is free. Israel is wreaking unspeakable destruction as we speak. They've killed over 20,000 children in Gaza and beginning to do the same in Lebanon. But history has taught us that colonial entities get most brutal just before they collapse. So mark my words, Israel's collapse is imminent. All the criminals will face justice. Freedom is coming from the river to the sea. Thank you.
My name is Faris Amir. I'm a Palestinian activist. Today's protest is extremely important because it marks 78 years since the Nakba, in which 800,000 Palestinians were forced from their homes by Zionist militias. Now, this is not only a historical crime, because the Nakba is still ongoing today. We've seen it in the genocide in Gaza, and we've seen the continued expansion into the West Bank, expansion into Lebanon. The Zionist entity has taken on a role of what I would call a cancer, if anything. So it's important that people come out, and people have come out. Over 100,000 people have come out here today in order to show solidarity with the Palestinian people and to demand an end to Zionist crimes. Meanwhile, at the same time, Stephen Yaxley Lennon, aka Tel Aviv Tommy, has also organised a protest, Unite the Kingdom or Unite the West. And what's interesting is that the UK government is treating our protest for justice and for peace similar to how they're treating the protest by racists to kick out immigrants in the UK. So there is a lot to be said there. I'm not really sure what's really going on, but a lot of questions can be asked. The Nakba is considered to be ongoing because Palestinian oppression, or the oppression of the Palestinians, has never ended. All right? The Zionists attempted to completely destroy the social fabric of Palestinian society, to completely uproot the Palestinian people in 1948, but to their dismay, they failed. And so they continue to oppress, they continue to forcibly displace, they continue to push upon the Palestinians measures that attempt to force them out of their country. And this is why the Nakba is still ongoing. And we have seen this not only in Gaza, the devastation in which well over 100,000 Palestinians have been killed, but also we're seeing this in the West Bank, encroachment upon Palestinian land, settlers completely going awry, backed by the Israeli occupation forces. And all of this is in service of empire, and the United Kingdom, as well as other European nations and the US, are knee-deep in complicity in the genocide of the Palestinian people.
My name's Talia, and I organise with the Jewish Bloc for Palestine, and I'm here marching, have been marching in central London on Nakba Memorial March, and also a march against the far right as they're rallying not very far from us, also in central London. Well, I mean, firstly, I've been on more of these marches that I can count. I've been on more Palestinian protests that I can count alongside many Jewish people, and it's just deeply ironic that these MPs came to speak for us and came to speak about our feelings of safety when they've clearly never met any of the Jews that are here, or the vast majority of Jews that are organising around Palestinian liberation. I think it's very easy for them to kind of treat anti-Semitism as if it's kind of exists in a silo, and as if it isn't, part and parcel with, other systems of oppression and supremacy, of which all forms of racism, including fascism, are part and parcel. You can't try and tackle one form of discrimination without looking at broader systems of oppression. And for me, you can't think about tackling anti-Semitism if you're not also thinking about tackling all forms of racism and fascism, and Zionism is a form of racism and fascism. So for them to treat anti-Semitism as if it exists in a vacuum isn't helping anyone apart from their own narratives of weaponization, which only advances Zionism for their own vested interests. I mean, I just think it's crazy that, there's free speech, and then there's just our government failing to safeguard people. And I think that's the thing, is when you have violent fascists that it's not a protest, it's not even a march. What they're doing is inciting violence. It's causing an active threat to so many communities. And the fact that not only our government and, the police and people in power can't safeguard people against violent racists, the fact that they won't even do that, but they're actually trying to repress another march and a movement that is built on solidarity and collective liberation and a want to alleviate suffering and promote freedom and peace and justice. I think it's just reflective of a deeply broken system. You know, I wasn't raised an anti-Zionist, like I was raised in Zionism like most young Jewish people, and for me, like unlearning my Zionism and like finding like place and belonging like in Palestinian solidarity organizing and in Jewish anti-Zionist organizing is like one of the most like freeing and liberating things that I could ever really imagine. And I think that's the thing that's like so beautiful when we talk about Palestinian liberation. Like it is about liberating us all, and to be able to like free myself from the fear that I was like indoctrinated into, that, you know, Zionism only works with the weaponization of anti-Semitism in order to legitimize itself. Become an anti-Zionist because it's great.
Thank you all for coming here today. Thank you for standing against genocide, for standing against occupation, for standing against apartheid.
Yeah, so I'm Asa Winstanley. I'm with the Electronic Intifada. I'm an investigative journalist, and I've come here today to the national demonstration in central London. We're here in Pall Mall. The marchers have rallied to hear the speakers today, and yesterday was Nakba Day, so this is the annual Nakba Day march. And the Nakba is present tense, we should say, the catastrophe of the Palestinian people. Were beginning around 1948. 800,000 of them were expelled from historic Palestine by the Zionist militias, who then went on to found the Israeli army. And every year Palestinians mark this event and recognize the fact that the Nakba never ended. This expulsion continued. There were successive waves of expulsions of Palestinians from Palestine since 1948 and over the decades, and now we're seeing the same again in the Gaza Strip with the genocide that has happened. You know, 90% of the population of the Gaza Strip during the first 2 years of the genocide were displaced from their homes. Their homes were flattened, destroyed. People were murdered, massacred, probably in the realm of 150,000 people. And so, you know, the importance of the Nakba Day march annually is that it not only commemorates the fact of the Nakba happening around the foundation of Israel, but the fact that the Nakba is an ongoing process. It's an ongoing destruction and expulsion of the Palestinian people. It is troubling, yeah. I mean, it's in my view, it's a deliberate provocation by the far-right demonstrators. They're very anti-Palestinian, they're very pro-Israel. I was actually just over there because I arrived an hour or two ago from Charing, where I'm Pall Mall now, just on the other side of the National Gallery. From where I'm standing is Charing Cross Station. I walked from there and I saw the far right demonstration curving around down Whitehall towards Parliament Square. And yeah, I saw, you know, Israeli flags, Iranian monarchist flags, you know, the Pahlavi dynasty flag, you know, this anti-Iranian, anti-Palestinian, racist stuff, along with all the British and English flags. And it's, you know, it's definitely a deliberate provocation by the far right, but even more concerning, I mean, which is kind of what they do, right? But more concerning is the fact that, in my view, this was a deliberate provocation by the police, by the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Mark Rowley, who has been under a lot of political pressure from the government to crack down on these marches, to stop them happening, and to find some sort of pretext to ban them, actually. That's really what there's a lot of political pressure for from the right-wing Labour government and from the right-wing Tory opposition, and obviously from Reform as well. So it's the fact that I was speaking to one of the head stewards earlier, and he was telling me they informed the Metropolitan Police their plans for this march in December, right? So, you know, at least 5-6 months ago. Right, so the fact that they knew this demonstration was going to happen on the 16th of May 2026, the police knew that, and it happens every year. almost every year there's some sort of recognition, some sort of annual march to commemorate and to mark the Nakba. So the police knew that it was going to happen, and yet they gave permission for the so-called Tommy Robinson, Stephen Yaxley, Lenin to hold this far-right racist march on the same day, just a few streets down. I mean, to be fair, there is a very strong barrier here, so it would be quite difficult for the fascists to come through around the back of the stage. That would be hard, but if they were a bit smarter, they could get around it, because I managed to do it, but they're not very smart, so probably they won't, hopefully. But yeah, nonetheless, I think the very fact that this has been allowed to happen on the same day is ridiculous. You know, it's clearly a deliberate provocation from the Metropolitan Police. Yeah, just that. I mean, I think there's a lot of support here today for the Palestinians. I've only listened to a couple of the speeches, but I haven't heard anything about Palestine Action, which I think is a bit of an admission and a bit of a shame, and there should have been I mean, obviously the organisers have to act within the law, but they should have at least called for the deep prescription of Palestine Action. If they haven't done, maybe some of them did and I didn't hear it, but it is not illegal to call for the deep prescription of Palestine Action, and I would think it would be a really important thing for them to do.